Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're heading into the forest for a new Roblox survival adventure called 99 Nights in the Forest. This time I'm going to try surviving 6 full days in the wilderness, and we have almost nothing to start with, so our first job is to collect resources, find a safe place, and get a fire going before night arrives. I start by looking around the forest and gathering the materials we need. There are trees, rocks, and different resources scattered all over the area. In a survival game like this, the first few minutes are important. If we waste too much time exploring, darkness can arrive before we're ready, and that's when things can get dangerous. The first major goal is getting our campfire working. The fire isn't just there for decoration. It gives us a safe area to return to and becomes the center of our camp. I keep collecting wood and bringing it back so we can improve the fire. After getting the basic resources together, I start looking around for a better way to organize our camp. We need a place where we can safely return after exploring. I also notice that there are structures and objects around the map that could become useful later. As the first day continues, I begin exploring a little farther from the camp. The forest looks calm during the daytime. I have no idea what could be waiting for us deeper in the woods. Every time I move away from the fire, I'm taking a small risk. I also start collecting more materials for future upgrades. I'm trying to balance exploration with preparation because we need enough supplies to survive the night. Then darkness starts getting closer, and that's when the atmosphere changes completely. The forest feels much more dangerous. During the day, I can move around freely, but at night I need to think carefully. Staying close to our campfire becomes much more important because it gives us a place to regroup and prepare. We're still on the first day, but already I can tell that surviving 6 days is going to require planning. We need a stronger camp, plenty of resources, and enough courage to explore the forest without getting caught in a bad situation. For now, the goal is simple: keep the fire alive, gather everything we can, and make it through the first night. If we can survive the beginning, we'll have a much better chance of making it through the days ahead. The campfire is going to be one of the most important things in this game. If we keep it supplied, we'll have a safe place to return to when the forest becomes dangerous. I don't want to spend the first night running around without a plan, so I'm making sure we have enough wood before going too far. At the same time, I need to watch my health and avoid unnecessary risks. The deeper I look into the game, the more I realize that every resource has a purpose. Wood can help us maintain the camp, while other materials can be saved for crafting and upgrades. That means I can't grab everything and use it immediately. Some items may become valuable later. Our first night is coming, and now it's time to see if we can survive it. The first night is already turning into a real challenge, but we're still moving forward. The forest looks different in darkness, and I have to be careful. I don't want to lose track of the camp, so I'm watching the area while collecting useful resources. At this point, surviving isn't just about staying alive. We also need to prepare for the next day. Every piece of wood and useful material can make a difference later, especially when we start building better equipment and improving our camp. I'm already thinking about what we'll need next. The night makes everything feel more dangerous. During the daytime, the forest seems peaceful, but once the light disappears, every sound makes me wonder what could be nearby. I don't want to take unnecessary risks, so I'm staying close enough to the camp to return quickly if something goes wrong. After exploring for a while, I find more things that could help us survive. I'm slowly learning where different resources can be found, and that's making the process easier. I'm learning the map as I explore. Eventually, I make my way back toward our camp. Returning to camp feels much safer after being out in the dark forest. The campfire is still our biggest priority. Now that we've made it through the most dangerous part of the night, it's time to focus on improving the camp. We need better equipment if we're going to survive 5 more days. Basic wood won't be enough forever, so I'm thinking about what we can craft and which upgrades will help us most. I also checked the different crafting options. Useful items can make survival easier, but materials are limited. That means I need to choose carefully and save resources for the upgrades that actually matter. The good news is that our camp is already starting to look more organized. We've got a fire, supplies, and a place to return to, so we're no longer completely helpless in the middle of the forest. It may not look like much yet, but this is only the beginning. With every upgrade, the camp becomes stronger. As the adventure continues, I'm realizing that the 6-day challenge is going to be harder than it first appeared. We need to keep gathering resources during the day, improve our equipment, and make sure we're ready before darkness returns. If we waste a day, we'll be in a much worse position later. For now, we're making good progress. The first night didn't stop us, and that's already a win. We have survived the beginning, learned more about the forest, and started building the foundation of our camp. Now we just need to keep improving before the next night arrives. Our goal is still 6 days, and there are plenty more dangers waiting ahead. The camp needs upgrades, our equipment needs to improve, and we need to become more efficient at collecting resources. The longer we survive, the harder things will become, so this is the perfect time to prepare. Day 2 is coming, and we're going to need everything we can get. Day 2 is here, and after surviving the first night, I'm ready to continue our journey through the forest. We've already learned that preparation is important, so I'm starting the new day by checking our camp and collecting more resources. We still have several days ahead of us, which means we can't waste time if we want to reach the end of this challenge. The forest has plenty of resources, but finding exactly what we need isn't always easy. I'm moving around the area, collecting everything useful and trying to remember where the best materials are located. Our camp is becoming more important with every day that passes. It's the center of our survival strategy. We need to keep the fire going, store useful resources, and make sure we have enough equipment before the next night arrives. If we can improve the camp now, future days should become much easier. While exploring, I keep an eye on the surroundings because I don't want to get caught far away from safety. During the daytime there is much more visibility, so this is the best opportunity to travel farther in search areas we couldn't safely explore at night. It's easy to spend the whole day collecting resources, but eventually we have to return to camp and prepare for darkness. If we stay out too long, we could end up far from the fire when the dangerous part of the day begins. So I'm trying to get as much done as possible before that happens. Seeing the camp slowly develop makes the adventure feel more rewarding. At the beginning we had almost nothing, but now we have a real base that we can continue expanding. The forest isn't going to become easier just because we've survived the first night. For now, though, we're making solid progress. We've survived the first day, started improving our camp, and learned how to manage our resources more efficiently. Before the next night arrives, I want to make sure we're not leaving anything important behind. A little extra preparation now could save us from a big problem later. The forest is full of useful materials, so I want to make every trip count. I just need to stay focused and keep moving. There are still resources to collect and things to prepare before darkness returns. We need to make sure the fire is ready, our supplies are safe, and everything is in place before we face another night in this forest. I also want to explore a little farther while there is still enough daylight, because we may find something useful that can help us survive the next few days. 6 days sounded simple when we started, but now I can see how difficult this challenge could become. We're only on day 2, and there are already plenty of things to worry about. Still, we're alive, our camp is getting stronger, and we're learning with every step. Let's keep moving forward and see if we can survive another night. Another day in the forest is coming to an end, and our survival challenge is getting more serious. We've already made it through the first part of the adventure, but there are still several days ahead. Every decision now can make the difference between an easy night and a dangerous one. I'm continuing to collect resources and improve our camp. The more materials we have, the more options we'll have when we need to craft something important. I'm trying not to waste anything because resources that seem unimportant now could become useful later. The forest is also becoming more familiar. After exploring for a while, I'm starting to recognize different areas and understand where I should look for useful materials. Knowing the map is making gathering much easier, and I can spend less time wandering around without a plan. I also need to make sure our camp is ready before the next night begins. The fire needs to stay alive, and having a safe place to return to gives us a big advantage. During the day it's easy to forget how dangerous the forest can become, but everything changes once darkness arrives. While preparing the camp, I'm thinking about what we should do next. We can't stay in one place forever because eventually we'll need better resources and stronger equipment. Exploring farther could give us exactly what we need, but every trip away from camp increases the risk. I have to find the right balance between exploring and staying safe. The longer this challenge continues, the more important preparation becomes. At the beginning, simply finding wood was enough to keep moving, but now we need supplies for crafting, materials for upgrades, and enough resources to keep the camp running. If we prepare everything during the day, we'll have a much better chance of surviving another night. I'm also becoming more comfortable with the survival mechanics. The first night was mostly about learning how everything works, but now I know what to expect. I understand how quickly time passes, when I should return to camp, and why collecting extra resources before darkness is so important. As the daylight starts disappearing, I make sure I'm not too far away from our base. I don't want to get caught somewhere dangerous when the forest becomes dark again. We've already worked hard to build our camp, so there is no reason to take an unnecessary risk now. Looking back at the beginning of the challenge, we've already come a long way. We started with almost nothing, and now we have a functioning camp and a much better understanding of the forest. It may still be small compared with what we'll eventually need, but every successful day makes it stronger. The next night is getting closer, so I'm making sure the fire is supplied and our resources are ready. 6 days sounded simple when we started, but now every day feels like an achievement. We still have more areas to explore, more resources to collect, and more upgrades to unlock. If we keep making smart decisions and avoid unnecessary mistakes, I think we have a real chance of reaching the end of this challenge. For now, let's stay focused, protect our camp, and survive whatever the forest sends our way next. We've reached another stage of the adventure, and our camp is starting to feel much more like a real place to survive. At the beginning we had almost nothing, but now we've built useful equipment and created a better setup. The challenge is getting harder, so every improvement is important for the days ahead. I'm continuing to work on our crafting and trying to unlock better equipment. Some items require a lot of resources, so I have to keep exploring the forest and collecting everything I can find. I'm also learning which materials are worth saving instead of using immediately. Having a proper place to rest makes a huge difference. After spending so much time outside, returning to a safe shelter feels much better. It also shows how much we've progressed since the beginning of the challenge. Now we're moving into another day, and the forest already feels more dangerous. I'm heading farther away from the camp to search for useful resources, but I have to stay alert. The farther we travel, the harder it becomes to get back quickly if something unexpected happens. While exploring, I come across different areas that we haven't visited before. There are more structures, resources, and places that could become important later. I don't want to ignore anything useful, so I'm exploring while there is still daylight. At the same time, I need to keep an eye on my health. It's easy to focus on collecting materials and forget that danger can appear at any moment. I'm trying to balance exploration with staying alive and making sure I can return safely. As the day continues, I keep gathering resources and bringing them back toward the camp. Every trip gives us more materials for future upgrades, and slowly we're becoming better prepared for the later days. The goal is still the same: survive all 6 days without losing everything we've built. When I return to the camp, I can see how much more developed it has become. The fire is still at the center, our equipment is improving, and we have a better place to organize everything. It may not be the biggest base in the forest, but compared to the beginning, it's a huge improvement. The next night is getting closer, and I know we can't waste time. Before darkness arrives, I want to make sure the fire is ready and that we have enough supplies. Every night becomes more stressful because we don't know what could be waiting outside the camp. We've already survived several difficult moments, and that's giving me more confidence. I understand the game much better now, and I'm starting to make decisions faster. Instead of panicking, I'm trying to think about the safest way to deal with every situation. We're getting closer to the middle of our 6-day challenge, but the hardest part may still be ahead. Our camp needs more upgrades, we need better equipment, and there is still a lot of the forest left to explore. For now, we're alive, we're prepared, and we're still moving forward. Let's survive another night and get closer to completing all 6 days. The next part of our survival challenge is getting more difficult, but we're still making progress. After everything we've learned so far, I feel much more prepared than I did at the beginning. Our camp is stronger, we understand the forest better, and we're starting to think ahead instead of simply reacting to every problem. I'm focusing on gathering the resources we need for the next upgrades. I don't want to wander around without a plan, because time is becoming more valuable with every day that passes. We need enough materials to improve our equipment, keep the camp running, and prepare for another dangerous night. The forest still has plenty of areas that we haven't fully explored. I'm keeping track of where I go and making sure I don't travel so far that returning to camp becomes a problem. Our biggest advantage right now is experience. The first night was full of uncertainty, but now I know how quickly the situation can change. I know when it's time to stop exploring, when I should return to the fire, and why having extra supplies can save us later. As I collect more resources, I'm also thinking about which upgrades should come next. We can't improve everything at once, so I have to choose carefully. A useful upgrade now could make the next few days much easier, while spending materials on something unnecessary could leave us without enough supplies when we really need them. The camp is slowly becoming more organized, and that makes it much easier to prepare for the night. I can return with resources, sort out what we need, and then head back out when it's safe. While exploring, I'm staying alert for anything unusual. The forest can be unpredictable, and I don't want to get caught by surprise. As daylight starts getting shorter, I begin thinking about returning. There's always a temptation to stay out a little longer and collect one more resource, but that can become a mistake very quickly. Back at camp, I make sure everything is ready for the next night. The fire needs attention, our supplies need to be organized, and we need to have a clear plan for what comes next. Surviving 6 days is no longer just about luck. It takes preparation, patience, and knowing when to take a risk and when to play it safe. I also want to make sure we're not forgetting anything important before the next night. A little extra preparation now could save us from a serious problem later. The forest may look calm, but I know that can change very quickly once the light disappears. We've come a long way since the beginning. What started as a simple attempt to survive in the forest has turned into a real challenge where every day matters. The camp is stronger, our equipment is better, and I'm becoming more confident with every decision. More resources and dangers are still waiting ahead. We've made it this far, and that's something to be proud of. Let's keep the camp ready, stay alert, and survive the next night. The survival challenge is moving forward, and our camp is getting stronger. We've already learned how important preparation is, but the forest still has plenty of surprises waiting for us. Our supplies are growing, and now I want to make the most of every minute before another night arrives. I start by checking the camp and making sure we have enough resources for the next stage. I know that running around without a plan can waste an entire day, so I'm focusing on what will actually help us survive. The forest is becoming more familiar, but that doesn't mean it's safe. I'm still keeping my distance from anything that looks suspicious. One wrong decision could cost us a lot of progress. Before heading out again, I make sure the important items are ready. I don't want to discover that we're missing something when we're already far away from camp. A little preparation can save a lot of trouble later, especially when night is getting closer. While moving through the forest, I continue collecting useful resources. I'm trying to build up a reserve because we don't know what we'll need later. I also want to improve our equipment. The problem is that every upgrade requires resources, so I have to decide what is worth spending them on. I'm focusing on improvements that will help us survive. As the day continues, I notice that time is moving faster than I expected. You can start exploring with plenty of daylight, but suddenly the sun begins to disappear and you're still far from camp. I don't want to make that mistake, so I'm keeping track of the time and planning my return. Eventually, I head back toward our base with the resources I've collected. Back at camp, I organize our supplies and prepare for the next night. The fire is still the most important part of the base, and I want to make sure it has everything it needs. We've already survived several dangerous moments, and I'm starting to feel more confident. I understand the basic mechanics much better now, and I'm not making the same mistakes I made at the beginning. That experience could become extremely useful as the challenge gets harder. The pressure is increasing with every day, but that also makes the progress more rewarding. We started with almost nothing, and now we actually have a chance to make it through. But we still have a long way to go. The goal is to survive all 6 days, and every new day brings us closer to the most difficult part of the adventure. I also want to keep enough time for the return trip, because getting caught far from the fire after dark would be a terrible way to lose our progress. The next night is getting closer, so I'm making one final check of our camp and supplies. Everything needs to be ready before darkness takes over the forest again. We've made good progress, but now we need to prove that we can keep it going. We're still here, the camp is stronger, and the adventure isn't over yet. Let's stay focused, keep collecting resources, and see what happens when another night begins. The challenge is moving into another stage, and I can feel that surviving in this forest is becoming harder. We've already learned a lot, but there are still plenty of dangers ahead. Our camp is stronger than before, and now the main goal is to keep improving it while making sure we have enough resources to survive. I begin by checking everything around the camp. The fire is still our main priority, so I make sure we have enough wood to keep it going. After that, I prepare for another trip into the forest. There are still materials we need, so I don't want to waste the day. Once I'm outside the camp, I start looking around for useful resources. I'm more familiar with the area now, so I can move around confidently. But I still can't become careless. I keep collecting materials and checking the surroundings as I go. Some resources can be used for crafting, while others are better saved for later. The biggest problem is time. Darkness can arrive surprisingly quickly. I don't want to be far away from the camp when that happens, so I keep checking how much daylight is left. I won't risk everything just for one extra item. As I continue exploring, I start thinking about the next upgrades. Our equipment has improved a lot since the beginning, but there are still things that could make survival easier. Being prepared now will help us later. After collecting enough resources, I decide it's time to head back. I also want to use this time to check whether there is anything we missed earlier. Sometimes a small amount of extra material can be exactly what we need for the next upgrade. I would rather spend a few extra minutes preparing now than discover later that we're missing something important. Returning safely is just as important. Back at the camp, I put the resources away and check what we can improve. The base looks much better than at the start of the challenge. We have a reliable place to return to, a working fire, and enough supplies to keep moving forward. Another night is getting closer, and the atmosphere is already changing. The forest looks different as the light disappears. I know that staying calm will be important, because making a bad decision at night could undo all the progress we've made. For now, I'm staying close to the camp and making sure everything is ready. The fire is supplied, our resources are organized, and we have a safe place to return to. We've learned from earlier days, and that experience helps us. The challenge is far from over. We still need to survive the remaining days. I know the forest can become even more dangerous, but we've already made it this far, and I'm not ready to give up now. Every successful day gives us more confidence. We're no longer beginners. We know the camp, the timing, and why preparation matters. Now it's time to face another night. Let's keep the fire alive, stay alert, and see if we can make it through another dangerous night in the forest. We've made it this far, and our camp is stronger than ever. The forest is still dangerous, but now we know how to survive. We've gathered resources, improved our camp, and survived several nights. Now it's time to finish this part of the challenge. I'll keep the fire going, stay alert, and do everything I can to survive. We've come a long way, but the adventure isn't over yet. Let's see if we can make it through the next night.